So my name is Nikola Damjanov. I might be a little bit different than other presenters in a sense that I haven't worked in many places on one thing, specializing along the way. I work in a single place. I've been in Nordius, which is a mobile gaming company based in Belgrade, Serbia, for 11 years now. But I worked on many things, both in Nordius and outside. There's a lot of personal projects. And I have this running joke, which I kind of both growing tired of it and growing fond of it. But until I figure out something new, I think we're gonna have to stick with it. I like to say people that I'm living this double life just because of how I'm organized currently. I do a lot, I sleep in very small amounts. So I have this day job, which coincidentally so does Bruce Wayne. And my day job is working, like I said, in Nordius. And I work on mobile games. Our flagship product is top 11, like a football manager. It's a very popular football manager game. And our second best product is this card battling PvP, dark fantasy game called Heroic. And when I came into Nordius, I was like a 3D generalist, basically a first artist hired in the company. And I worked for a very long time on top 11, then I moved to Heroic. Now I've been a lead artist on Heroic for maybe 4 years. Then I kind of moved back to the football products. On the other hand, I do have my night job as well. Sadly, I don't fight crime. I don't no time for that as well. But I do a lot of personal projects on the side. Most of the projects that I do, I kind of very jealously kind of keep them to myself because I do like to experiment a lot. But occasionally I do commercial projects on the side as well. But that's kind of rare because I do have this luxury of choosing what I wanna work on. And how all this kind of proceduralism started. I know this is like a Houdini talk, but just want to kind of fade you into my kind of journey into this. I started doing procedural work out of sheer laziness, to be honest. I just wanted to kind of find a way to do things faster and not create, for example, a 15th version of a brick wall in Photoshop. That's not where my interest kind of was at the time. And I started doing substance designer. That's kind of my first intro into the procedural work. And I did materials. I did a lot of materials, even thousands of them. This is just a small sample of the things I did. And I still do them, but now I do them in a kind of different, I would say, kind of more smarter way in a sense. Whenever you do materials in substance designer, since you're dealing with 2D images, especially when you're trying to build something which has overlaps, it's very hard to do in designer because it doesn't have any sense of what's kind of interpreting with something else. But if you introduce Houdini in the same process, I can just quickly run simulations of the things that I want to do materials with, like you can see here, whether or not it's tires or nuts and bolts, or even I don't know, a bowl of ramen or something. I don't even know how to call this, to be honest. It's just an experiment, which I thought it was interesting. But you can still keep the whole process quite iterative in a sense. Yes, you lose some speed, moving from maintaining 2D images in designer to simulating things in Houdini, but luckily both Bullet and Vellum are very fast on this level. So you still have that kind of speed of iteration, but way more kind of powerful tools at your disposal that you can build things like this. And when I did all these materials, fun fact is this is the kind of the sample promotional video for Substance Alchemist that I did back in the day when I was kind of beta testing. This was done in Houdini. This was actually some of the first things I did in Houdini. I think I simulated using grains. I had no idea what I was doing back then. So much trial and error. I would do so many things differently, but Houdini took care of this quite easily. And then going back with this kind of mindset, I was working on this game called Heroic. It's a fantasy game, and it has a lot of VFX in it. A lot of VFX, because it's a fantasy magic-y game. And in the good sense of game advertising, I placed a screenshot of the game, which technically looks like a game, but it doesn't look at all anything like the game itself. It does uses the game assets, but it's not the game itself. But just kind of visualizes the idea that we use a lot of VFX in it. And when you're building VFX, especially when you're building VFX on mobile games, you need to be very careful around optimization. So basically what a VFX is made of in mobile games, it's very specific textures placed on very specific meshes and then animated to like create a simulation of a specific VFX what you're building for. And we used to build them like everything was kind of bespoke by hand. All the textures were done like using this prehistoric tool. And like, again, I thought like there needs to be a smarter way to do this. And I kind of pushed for the proceduralism first on the texture level. Like let's use design, let's build all our textures procedurally. And not only that, we also started building all the meshes that kind of hosted those textures as well procedurally. So we kind of moved away from that bespoke, like create every VFX by hand method to start thinking about VFXs as systems. And now we completely kind of kept that mindset. So now when I think about like building VFX for games, I start thinking about, okay, what types, all these types of VFX can probably be kind of custom to a single system. And then I build a system that can at least adhere to a certain level of tweaks in art direction. You can see here, this is like a very simple system building Houdini based on like slices and curves. With like minimal tweaking, you can get like various types of results. And this is kind of my approach to building stuff now. And like while I was learning Houdini, I started with not so simple things at first. One of the first things which I did in Houdini, which I wouldn't suggest, is like doing procedural characters, but not actually generate them, more like augment them. I had these sculpts which I brought into Houdini, and I wanted to kind of give additional layer of like design and art direction on top. Very difficult thing for me, especially at the time. Again, I kind of dived into something which I didn't understand at first, but it was a very liberating in a sense that I was experimenting with new stuff and getting results procedurally so that I could kind of tweak and like go back X amount of steps at any time. As my kind of experience progressed, I moved into procedural environments. This is, again, completely procedurally in Houdini. Shading was done for V-Ray back then. Everything like from a single piece of crystal to the actual distribution, all the environments are done like with height fields and stuff like that. Again, I kind of try to like cross-pollinate between what I do like as personal experiments and what I do as a kind of job. So with all this knowledge I build in Houdini building environments, I try to bring it back into the actual game that we're working on. And I did this, like let's call it like a fast prototype demo of how can we build environments for our game, again, completely procedurally. Not in a desire to like replace or completely like disrupt our pipeline, because like this environment, for example, environment for our game took maybe like 5 artists a month to carefully sculpt it, but just kind of to introduce the potential possibilities where like which parts of that pipeline can be optimized, you know? So I kind of tried out, okay, maybe we can sculpt trees procedurally, or maybe we can sculpt rocks procedurally, and then have some level of control over it. What was really kind of a good selling point for this is that we could actually include game designers into the like a feedback loop as well. Like we could like expose like the base amount of parameters to them, so they could augment the environment and like on a click actually send it to the game and test it out immediately, see if stuff works. So this didn't actually see the light of day because at the moment kind of came in too late, to be honest. By the moment I kind of built this tool and showcased it, we already kind of had all the environments that were done in the game. But that didn't stop me to kind of push for things further. So at a certain point, we needed a lot of like pre-rendered backgrounds for our kind of PvE part of the game, which was imagined like that we need these 4 types of biomes that we're gonna like let the player kind of go through the environment, like a trophy row type of a thing for mobile games. And I decided to utilize Houdini to kind of render out all these things. There was a bit of a kind of a, let's say, cautious approach from the other artists because they really kind of wanted to keep that sense of, oh, I really want the mountain here, or I really want the river there, the kind of level of manual control. So what was also nice is that I could let them do that. So the initial versions of all these biomes was actually like the base, like the mass volumes was initially kind of pre-sculpted by the artists, and then I just kind of ran it through the 4 different systems depending on what the biome was. So the artist can go in, just sculpt the basic mountains or the basic rivers. We can run the entire kind of setup through the specific biome like node list, and we can get out the final results. And we can chug out like 30 background renders like literally within a week. Then the dawning came. I think like all that accumulated knowledge of me building environments kind of like let's say culminated in the like side effects called me to work on their kind of promotional shot called the dawning. And this was kind of a new experience for me, mostly on two levels. First level was like the scale level, in the sense that now I had to kind of work on environments which went like really close down to the actual kind of rocks that you see like astronauts walking on, all the way to these kind of large Mars vistas. If you like saw the dawning, maybe you know what I'm talking about. But like when you have the power of proceduralism, you can always kind of pick a place and then just kind of dive deeper into it, because everything is procedural. You're building like through systems. You can choose, okay, cool, this is the part where I know that the camera is going to zoom in. There's like the feet of the astronaut is going to touch. I'm just going to dive in and I'm just going to kind of like add more details to that specific level. Or I need a rock cliff because like this height field is a little bit more in the foreground. I can just like pick away a part of that height field and just kind of process it as a regular mesh to add it on top. And all this is added like procedurally. So even if we decide that we want to choose like the camera angle or we need a different looking cliff, we just need to basically adjust the base level of what we're designing, and this will propagate further on. To be honest, when I was working on that dawning, all the texturing was done outside of Houdini, mostly designer and painter. But then I got asked to do the actual kind of tutorial session for the side effects website. And I went to this kind of, at the time, very brave notion of I'm going to do all the texturing in COPS. Yeah. I kind of did it. I kind of managed to replicate the steps I was doing in Designer back in COPS. It was a bit, let's say, call it a bit more painful, but nevertheless, it can be done. I'm still trying to kind of wrap my head around COPS. But if you want to like see how we did, these are kind of the three biomes that I did for that tutorial, like desert, snow one, and the lava one. This is like a free tutorial. You can download all the assets file. Just look it up on the side effects website. You have everything there. And you can see how it's built up, both the models and the textures and the rendering setup. I think this was my first Solaris rendering, if I remember correctly. But back in the day job, back in the games, so I was back working on this football game. And you know, when we're building football games, I mean, I do use Houdini daily a lot, but it's still football. Like the environment that I'm operating in, it's basically football. So I do mostly these kind of things. I do a lot of like stadium production, I do a lot of like applying audiences, like generating crowds and whatnot. It's interesting, but it's like problems that already got solved multiple times. So it's not something which is like overly creatively exciting. But I do try to find like niches here and there, because like a lot of people inside the company need my help. So I try to kind of wiggle my way around, trying to find some place where I actually can help. Some of the things are like branding stuff that we do, both for like external and internal usages. So I did this whole animation for like when we rebranded the company, which was like internal use only, but the entire animation of this kind of promotional video was done in Houdini, completely procedurally. We did this kind of very various, I abused, I think, every Entagma tutorial to kind of learn this. Thank you, Entagma. But also like for the 10th year anniversary of the company, I'm sorry if this causes anybody nausea. I will move this slide fast. Or like very small snippets, like we organize, I don't know, like movie screenings, and this is like a very short intermezzo between the couple of movies that we have inside of the company. And it's quickly, like these scenes are like in Houdini, like literally can be wrapped up in like a matter of 10 minutes. Like you take the logo, find the displacement texture, couple of stripes, you run the volume simulation, and like it literally takes longer to render than to build the actual scenes. But I love doing these things because every new like challenge like this, even though they're small, I try to find at least a certain piece of it that I don't know out of the box how to do, so I can like force myself to learn it and experiment while doing it. So I was, for example, this was like, sometimes I spend my lunch breaks doing like these backgrounds for the company. And at the time I was working in a team which had a couple of people who were really into synthwave. And I was like, I'm gonna make them a synthwave version of kind of like a Nordius background. And I didn't want to just kind of try to model any city. I wanted to kind of base it on kind of Belgrade skyline. This is exaggerated Belgrade skyline. We don't have this many skyscrapers, to be honest. But what was awesome is that there's like OSM data, like Mapbox, that you can just plug into Houdini and get all the data and the metadata that you need to build something like this. And once you kind of build a system, it's quite easy, and I like to build like London version or Rome version or even like New York version of a synthwave Tron, like I don't know how to label it. I was very proud of when I finished this product. I was like, cool, I can get like a nice looking render of any place on Earth. And I went out on Twitter because I try to be like active on social media. And I went like, cool, hey people, I built this, like send me your like GPS location, I'll do like a render for you. Like first 10 people, whoever, like first come, first served, and then 2 people answered. And like, then I realized maybe it's not the best thing to ask online people where they live. So lesson learned, I guess. But even though I don't have like that many creative opportunities to like when I'm working on products, since it's a football game, we have like a football, like a 3D live match football. What we do have is a lot of like motion capture data. And again, it's data. And as soon as I have like a bunch of data, similar way that I had data from the like OSM, this is the data that I can probably try to visualize in a maybe nicer way, or at least try to like experiment how I can stylize the data, sometimes just for experimentation's sake. For example, this is just like a deconstruction of one of the like dribbles that we have in the football game, like made into this kind of kinetic glass sculpture, or this kind of all the wallpapers that I did. And again, it's super cool because I'm showing you just one version, but I can just choose, like we have thousands of animation, I can just pick any frame of any animation and get basically the same results. Sometimes, because out of all this experimentation, I'm also kind of invited to experiment, like intentionally experiment for the product, because I mean, product that we have, the marketing for it, it's something that you would expect for a football game. It's like, it's very realistic, it's very kind of like aimed for that target audience, but we do occasionally have these experiments that we try, like maybe now is the time to try something different. So I did some like stylistic tests for our football game. Some of them were like on a texture level, these like completely procedurally generated texture variations, but some were on like a stylistic rendering level. For example, I built this, let's say it's like a brushstroke rendering type of a version for the player heads. And it's super easy to do in Houdini because like all the tools are just there. Like you need UV mapped plane, you just scatter points on a face, get like points from the mesh transfer to those planes, in texture you get it. Or like stylize the description of the actual, I don't know, highlight of the actual, I don't know, a clash of two players. Again, completely built in Houdini. It was like quite easy to set up, and you can like go through variations quite fast. And I love doing these kinds of experiments. It's quite different than from the, especially stylistic from what I do usually as a job. Again, on the topic of like visualizing motion, every once in a while I see like some style which I like, whether or not it's like a comic or a graphic design or a poster, and I try to replicate it in motion. That's just like trying to kind of have the silhouette read, or at least kind of a squiggly lines. Again, completely procedurally made in Houdini. This one is like heavily abuses the silhouette node from Side Effects Lab. That node does wonders for things like this. I do sometimes introduce a little bit of simulation in the stuff I do. I don't do a lot of simulations, but when I can, I kind of try to play around it, just to see like what can I do, not to actually have the things like be realistically simulated, but more along the lines like how can I use this to emphasize a certain style in whatever direction that I'm chasing at the moment. And this can also kind of got me into animation, because I'm not an animator by any means necessary, but I can probably understand what good animation is. I can understand like what are curves, what are follow-throughs, stuff like that. And sometimes I do try to animate things in Houdini, again, completely procedurally. And I always get surprised like with how many just like simple sinus, cosinus functions and like layered noises, you can actually get results which are, okay, please turn the volume down a little bit, or not. So this was like done, like I sculpted this in VR, textured in Painter, but all the VFX and animations are completely done in Houdini. This is like one of the side projects. I think he has one more. Okay, and sometimes I don't like. Of course, I wanted to build like space stuff. I mean, who doesn't like space in sci-fi? And even though like this is like generated, it's not completely generated because sometimes I try to not to generate everything like I did for the previous piece. Sometimes I like to like combine Houdini in different ways. So this was like more like kid bashed. Even though I did build like a system that can generate space hulls, so you can basically run like UV map any objects and like run per UV tile to like generate these like sci-fi looking hulls. I mean, it does like turn out nice results, but in the end, like I played with variation more on a kid bash level. So this is more on a level of how can I like combine already pre-built or prefabricated elements, either using symmetry or kind of like a circle distribution, rather than trying to generate everything from scratch every time. And again, sometimes like personal projects, and I use Houdini just for like scene assembly or specific points of the project. This tree here is actually the tree labs, the lab's simple tree tool that I use for this, with like a lot of displacement on top. There's like photogrammetry, of course, for the bird, vellum simulation for the scarf. The only model which I literally actually modeled here is the actual goggles for the little fella. I don't know if you ever watched Woodstock as a kid. I watched Woodstock a lot, and it's heavily inspired by that. This is like the geometry from Houdini, and this is like the displacement on top. So now I'm in a place where whenever I want to try to model something, I usually, I don't know, I try to understand if there is a system that I can build around it to make my life easier. So I did build a lot of generators in my life. I built this kind of stylized tree generator. I built a house generator. This is heavily inspired by Luca. It was done for a workshop at View conference a couple of years back. And I really loved Luca and the style of the Luca, so I kind of tried to replicate that. I think I failed to a certain point and succeeded to another. Or like the neon sign generator. Again, I always try to play around with what kind of different data I can plug into Houdini to make my life easier. And I was trying to figure out how can I create like neon signs, because I was working on this, let's call it again, some kind of a cyberpunk scene, which I never finished. I started from this point. This is actually where I stopped. But the whole idea was I wanted some certain point of art direction. So my idea was, can I just draw the basic shapes in Illustrator and like let Houdini just handle everything else? So the whole trick with this tool is that you give Houdini literally the outline and the shapes of the actual like neon segments, and it generates all the rest, even like the kind of scaffolding, all the points where neon kind of bends, has color variations, whatnot. And what was also interesting to me, I was thinking, how can I do animations automatically? Luckily, you can import like line width from SVG. So if you just kind of draw your kind of animation steps as like different line widths in the vector and plug that in, it automatically recognizes and do the animation for you. It was like a very nice small win for me. I was very proud of that moment. Then this thing came. I don't know if you guys know what November is. So just a kind of short introduction. So November is basically like a community-driven effort. It happens in November, where you have like this whole month to just kind of challenge yourself. So you get these 15 prompts. It was 15 prompts in the last 2 years, and you need to kind of respond to them either visually or like musically, whatever. But the whole point is just kind of focus yourself on using node-based tools. And this was like my favorite month of a year for the last like 2 years, because I could just kind of unleash whatever I knew like to these small snippets. And I participated in the last 2 years. I'll show you all the breakdowns. Everything here that you see is kind of completely modeled procedurally in Houdini. This first is from 2021, and the prompts that year was a bit more. I don't know, like you see up here, you can see the prompts from that, like 3 sides, 4 sides, 5 sides, and it was super interesting for me for 2 reasons, because I kind of really like somebody else giving me like a topic or a challenge, but still letting me kind of decide how I'm going to react within that challenge. But also, since it was like 15 prompts within 30 days, you basically have, I don't know, 2 days, which realistically means you have maybe a couple of hours to spend on a specific prompt. which was super nice for me because it kind of gave me a very hard like time box, which within I could operate. So it was both scary and liberating in a way. I kind of kept some practices from it. I do have these files still saved from the November, but sometimes when I'm doing these experiments like now, whenever I want to do like a quick experiment during lunch break or whatnot, what I actually do now is I don't even save the file anymore. I just kind of dive into Houdini, do whatever I want, save out a screenshot or a render, and I just kind of close the file without even saving it. It kind of, I don't know, it kind of makes me less attached to the artwork. It makes me kind of progress faster while doing it. So these are kind of red. So for red, I went for like a Mars. I wanted to make like a rock generator. I had a lot of experience from the dawning that transferred very well from this. Kind of pick up whatever you want. Green, I went for like I don't know how you call the material. My brain stopped. I wanted to kind of have this, I don't know, like a spiral thing. Then like for blue, of course, blue, snow, frozen. I'm gonna try to freeze the November logo. That was interesting. I don't know what's next. And even though these things are like most of the times completely based on like modeling and SOP level tools, usually like every single challenge has a little bit of a twist to it. This is me trying to build like fictional user interfaces using splines and whatnot. There's actually even a nicer animated version of this, which I could have brought, but I didn't. This one was interesting because I built like a feather generator for like way back for some specific thing. And what usually happens, I have this folder which is huge with all the work in progress files, which I never actually finished. And then like once a year comes November, and I recycle and kind of finalize whatever is kind of left in a limbo state in that folder. And that feather generator was one of it. I also tried generating characters procedurally, again, but I would say with okay result. I mean, this is the level of character art that I can probably manage at this current level. I mean, cutesy, but probably not that useful. This was the last year. This was year 2022. The actual prompts were a bit more, like I would say, like direct this year. Actually, last year. The year before last year, it was like very like 3 sides, 4 sides, blue, red. But last year they were like, I don't know, space junkyard or very, very, very specific. Where I wanted to kind of do a little bit twist last year is that I kind of felt that I wanted to kind of introduce more art into this. Don't ask me why. But I had this idea, I'm going to write a short poem first for every prompt that I have. And then I'm going to react visually to the poem which is based on a prompt. I call it shitty poetry because literally it was shitty poetry. I'm not... I mean, look, it's very simple. It's like elementary school level poetry, but it's just kind of another twist to my daily workflows, and I quite kind of like it. Sometimes I actually spend more time trying to figure out what the poem is going to be than the actual artwork, which kind of negates the purpose. But this was my favorite piece of this. I love watching Pinocchio when I was a kid, and Nostromo was kind of very scary for me. And I wanted to see if I could make this kinetic toy completely procedural in Houdini. It was textured in Painter, but all the modeling, all the animation as well was completely done in Houdini. I'm quite proud. This is the favorite piece of the entire last year's set. There were some nice additions. There are some like pieces which I'm really kind of like far from being proud. I even tried to do some like political commentary that didn't really kind of end up. I'm not sure if the red cap is a subtle enough nod or not. But nevertheless, like one of the things that I did do, like that feather generator, kind of saw the second life, which also is kind of testament to how powerful Houdini is, because once I had that feather generator, I could like generate 10, 50, 20 feathers and just create like insert like multi-brush for ZBrush, which my friend needed because he was building some winged character. And it was super easy to build. But slowly over the like I would say maybe last year or year and a half, a third person started kind of crawling aside me. And I'm kind of picking back to that my need of trying to introduce more like artistic sublayer into my work. Because I don't know if I'm to blame, maybe I'm not, but people usually when they tend to, especially inside of the company, when they come to me like with questions, those questions are usually very kind of technical in nature. And even though like I so much enjoy like helping people on whatever topic that I can help, it always kind of like subconsciously bother me, like why don't they ask me like questions about art? Like I'm not an artist, what's going on here? And I do have like artistic background, and I would like to believe that I do have like sense for art as well. So this kind of like a disruptive guy started like growing beside me, and you know like some things happened. So I kind of started doing different things. I started doing like abstract art in Houdini, you know, either via cops or via simulations, whatever I could do to kind of wrangle things to get some nice visual results in any way. And then this happened. I got actually invited to participate in my country's like art biennale. So what was interesting about this specific project is that the setup of the project was such that it was held in a city near the capital. The city is called Pančevo, but the city is very unique because it has this huge oil refinery, which is like this enormous industrial complex, but it's literally located like 300 meters away from the like monastery, which is 500 years old. It's like, and that contrast, it's very, very, very unique for that part. And the whole Biennale was kind of, I don't know, motivated by that contrast. It was called like Monastery Refinery. And I was thinking like, oh cool, how can I react to this theme of this Biennale? Because I was like very motivated, very, very humbled at all to be invited to participate in this. And I didn't want any desire to participate in like any, I don't know, religious commentary, so I kind of stick to that refinery part of the whole theme. And I was very curious about like oil and fossils and microfossils per se, because like the radiolaria, the microfossils, they already look like they're procedurally generated. So that kind of gave me a very nice aesthetic to work on. So my idea was to kind of build this procedural flower, which was heavily like inspired by that radiolaria aesthetics. And I did it. It's like completely procedurally done in Houdini. But again, like that missing, I didn't want to present it just as a like I don't know, like a print or whatnot. I really wanted to bring another layer of physicality to its existence. This was kind of the idea how I wanted to present it within the space. And you can see the breakdown here of all the elements that I built. But I actually really wanted to 3D print it. That was kind of my end goal. And my experience with 3D print was zero at the time, literally zero. So I needed a lot of help because the learning curve was very steep for me. But it was also a very interesting experience, which again proved why building things like procedurally can have like a lot of benefits. Why? Because like this is the first iteration that I built, which was strictly like motivated by aesthetic choices. Like I haven't considered 3D printing as a final result while doing this. And this turned out to be unprintable by the technology that I had, because it has too many interlocking parts without supports. Some parts were way too thin. It was like there's no support to hold the weight of the head. It was slightly off balanced. But like trying and erroring and realizing what the faults are, it was very easy to just kind of readjust the entire project to still kind of keep the general art direction, but make it actually, you know, like feasible to actually produce it. And I did. I mean, some things like do break, but I actually quite liked how it turned out to be. The initial idea was to print the entire set, but it costed too much money, to be honest. So in the end, I just printed the flower, and I still keep it at my home. At a shelf right next to the TV. I quite like it. But yes, I got a new toy. Can I mute somehow all the videos? Can you guys mute all the videos from the computer? You can't? Okay, give me just a second. Is this? Okay. Oh, good. Cool. Okay. So in the meantime, I got myself a new toy. Again, like driven by this kind of my desire to like take my digital art and like move it more towards like the physical realm. I bought this, which is basically a 2D plotter machine, but it has like a head that you can add whatever pen that you like. And then I completely got like a deep dive into plotter art. And again, I started like using Houdini for that. I started using Houdini literally as a plot machine, and it's super awesome because it's basically just splines. You have all these incredible tools that you're handed in Houdini, both simulation tools or soft manipulation tools you can actually do to create splines and then print them out. And since I was on sabbatical, and this is kind of maybe like the reoccurring theme of my entire life, my ambition was way above my actual ability to do things. So what I decided, I was like, cool, I have this new opportunity which I really like to explore. How can I like, I don't know, make this happen? I actually came to an idea to open an abstract art museum in Belgrade because there wasn't, to my knowledge, there wasn't any present there. So I kind of made it my mission to kind of, okay, I'm going to be the first one. I'll like very selfishly keep the first exhibition for myself, but then very on a philanthropic level, I'm going to like just kind of lend the place for free for anybody else who wants to like have their own exhibits, as long as it's like abstract generative art, like everything is fine. So I went to this mission, actually found a very nice place downtown, and I also went on a mission to like actually kind of creating my opening exhibition. I went through a lot of things. This is just like a small snippets of the things that I built and wanted to kind of print out on that machine. Some were kind of more like very handcrafted, in a sense, like very art directed. Like actually, like hair tools are fantastic for doing these kind of things. So I was actually grooming all of these things, which was again a very nice experience for me. Some things were way more kind of simulation based. Again, Vellum is very super for this because you can set up initial states, let it run for a couple of frames, and then choose a frame which you like, and then build maybe a specific details on top. Some were more governed by specific rules, like very kind of angularly driven shortest paths to kind of generate these at least kind of fake looking architectural drawings. Some were driven by like simulations of the shapes, and some were very chaotic in nature by design. And some things I like really liked in the sense that there were some algorithms that I did which I don't know, felt like really nice to me. Like this one was kind of filling the whole space inwards. That I decided I want to like bring another level to the physicality to it. So I actually took one of those simulation steps and like had this guy help me build like an LED lamp out of this, which was again zero experience while doing this, but super fun actually building it. And it's not that hard because if you have a tooling that can like carve a woods for a specific thing, you can just buy this LED strip and kind of try to bend it. The only thing that you need to be careful of is like the bend angle. You cannot go too sharp because otherwise the LED strip would kind of snap. And just kind of watching this machine work sometimes, it was a kind of form of meditation to me. It was very mesmerizing. It was also very exploratory as well, because depending on what type of paper you choose and what type of pen you choose, the results can be completely different, because some papers, they adopt too much ink, some pens, they release too much ink. What I realized, it's very hard to find a white pen for some reason in Belgrade. I think I tried like 20 of them differently, and none of them gave me the results which were like really, really kind of good. Maybe it was also the paper's fault. And some things, I was really happy how they turned out. The exhibition was kind of progressing nicely towards its crescendo, but some things didn't turn out well. Yeah, luckily nobody got hurt. That's me actually being rescued by by the fire department from the building of my museum. Like literally the day before I was supposed to open the exhibition, the building where the museum was caught fire. Nobody was hurt. There was like significant material damage within the building itself. My artwork was kind of safe. It was heavily smoked. But at least it didn't burn down. I mean, like, I did open the museum, the exhibition, like maybe like a month later, but it wasn't what I kind of expected. It was kind of smaller in a sense because like now I was dealing with a place that literally burned down a month before this. But nevertheless, it did happen. It was kind of a nice like a final step of this whole journey, and it lasted for around 2 weeks. Sadly, the whole project ended on a sad note because I kind of lost the actual place. And I'm still searching to find like the new place somewhere like accordingly downtown Belgrade, which I can continue this project. But we'll see how that goes. But nevertheless, like my involvement with these artistic projects and like using Houdini for the artistic projects kind of continued. So after that, I got an invite to participate in like, this was like a very interesting project. It was actually sponsored by, I think by the French embassy in Belgrade. So thank you for that. There was like there's this like a center for promotion of science in Serbia, and they collaborate with all these embassies and funds, and they create this like educational exhibition every year. They create one, and it's the whole idea is to create an exhibition which deals with a certain topic, and the exhibition is supposed to be like movable. Then that exhibition travels through, well, almost every like elementary school in Serbia. Just like stays somewhere for a week and then moves on to the next place. And my wife, she's a graphic designer. She was kind of responsible for actually designing the exhibition, but I was helping out with all the like technical stuff and some of the creative stuff along the way. Like she did some of the things, like she drew them manually, but there were like specific things of the exhibition which we had envisioned to do, but were like way easier to be done like by actually using the specific tools. For example, this whole bunch of trash. I just imported like these vector files in Houdini and like did like a UV layout and UV packing them and then export these vectors back. It's like, it's pointless to do this by hand. It's gonna be much faster to do it this way. The exhibition also kind of had like a set of like 3 like augmented reality experiences, which were supposed to be designed to work on a very low-end device phones because like we don't have that powerful phones usually across the demographics in Serbia. So Houdini was used for that. I also used Houdini to build these procedural illustrations, which are one part of the exhibition, kind of simulating like both drought version of a specific place and the flooded version. I mean, art direction was done by Bojana, but I kind of built a system to kind of generate the entire thing. Even the augmented reality markers I generated in Houdini because it was like super easy thing to do. And this like volume used to kind of simulate this movement of phytoplanktons, which are kind of escaping the warm parts of the water. But the augmented reality was, again, super easy to build with Houdini because you have like the GLTF export, you have all the KineFX tools, you can like quickly build this heavily optimized like real-time 3D graphics that you can use in your exhibitions. But since I'm like this, even though I went on like sabbatical and tried to rest, I just can't for some reasons. I don't know why. It's just like, I don't know. I would always rather like be building something than like just kind of lounging somewhere on a beach. So I want to show you some projects. I mean, my, like I said, like my work in progress folder has a lot of these things which I like almost finished but never actually finished. Some of them I might finish. I don't know. We'll see how thing goes. But I've been known to add a new folder to the list every once in a while. But this was one of the projects which I've been working recently, which I'm really hoping to actually do finish. What's cool about this project is that not only that the most of the actual kind of base modeling was done procedurally, that I like even the materials were done procedurally. This is kind of the current state of the render that I'm doing. But I kind of took it upon me to kind of try to solve all these issues using Houdini. So like ropes were simulated, all the clothing was simulated with Vellum, and I built a lot of generators for the actual scene as well. Even though I knew like I'm gonna have like actually like 2, maybe 3 brooms, nevertheless I went on this kind of crusade to try and build a generator for everything that I need. So I built this kind of a broom generator. I built a pumpkin generator, of course, because I mean, who doesn't need a pumpkin generator, especially when Halloween comes? But again, I always kind of try to to kind of find at least some level of multi-purpose for any tool. For example, for this, I think I even abused my kids to kind of draw me all these shapes. So you can just draw a shape, take like a screenshot of it, and automatically transfer to whatever the pumpkin carving is. And I even built like a Instagram filter for it. That Instagram filter was a promise for my kids, like draw me some shapes and I will build an Instagram filter for you. So yeah, maybe they abused me in that case, I have no idea. Nevertheless, fun times. And also build a potion generator as well. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, even though they kind of share the same workflows, each and every one of them was kind of unique in a specific case. I was quite happy with this one because I actually kind of set up all the shaders and rendering as well while doing the generator. So kind of the results, they look actually nice. I mean, like even on this close-up level, let alone on that total shot that I was building. And along the lines, I came across this book. Again, like keeping the topic of these talks around like flowers and florals and trees and whatnot. And I got mesmerized by it because it's actually like more of a kid's book, but the illustrations inside are so beautiful. They have this kind of a abstract level of illustrating, you know, like plants, flowers, fruits, and whatnot. And I like every procedural artist, I guess, at one point gets kind of mesmerized with like natural, like botanic phenomena. I tried replicating the illustrations from the book. This is also my kind of long-term side project, like trying to build all these plants procedurally. And some of these plants are like actually kind of based on their real life counterparts. Like this is the bottom part is usually kind of screenshot from the book, and that's the rendering, and you can see the process of modeling. Some of them were like quite easy to do. Something like this, it's not that difficult to build, especially once you, it's very similar to the pumpkin, to be honest. So I kind of reused a lot of elements there. But some things were way more kind of challenging. In a sense, I think the next one is that kind of no, this is, I'll show you after this one. This is like a very nice flower. Texture for this was actually done in Substance Designer. I didn't, again, still procedurally textured, but in Substance Designer. This was kind of a little bit hand-modeled in a sense of using like VDBs to do this. This was a bit tricky because this was kind of like a platonic solid turned into, I don't know how, I forgot what the name is. So this took a little bit more finesse, actually, kind of building all these structures and then like massaging it through like VDBs to get the final results. But I also got, in the meantime, I saw like these wonderful concepts done by Callum Alexander Watt. He's a like look development artist, and he did a bunch of these concepts. These are actually from the latest like Ant-Man movie, and again, like I super love them because they were like nicely stylized, and I quite enjoy them. So I asked him if I could like try to recreate some of his concepts procedurally. Like he was super happy for me to try, and I was like super happy to actually try it. And then like some things were very strange, like building these kind of like intestine things. This was kind of simulated by just kind of using volume and just crumpled a bunch of lines, and then I modeled it away from there. But along all the plans that he did, he also had a couple of, let's say, vehicles or structures among his concepts. And I only did one so far. I think that's the last one in this breakdown I'm probably going to show you. I think maybe it will come after this one or not. Let's see. Yeah, that's the one. Like this kind of I don't know, it's like a futuristic hot air balloon. So it was kind of a different approach for me trying to build these things procedurally. Again, circling back to the sci-fi stuff I did with the space station. And also, like one of the projects that I'm currently working on, this is like I have a friend, they have this, I'm almost done. So a friend, they have like, they're building this company which deals with kind of AI, and they asked me if I can help them do some kind of a motion graphics visualization for their branding. This is just kind of current like a play blast states of the stuff that I'm doing for them. So I do tend to do like this kind of motion graphic stuff as well, but this is like, to be honest, not my my biggest area of expertise. So in the end, because a lot of people have approached me around like my Houdini files, especially from the November, and I always kind of postponed because they're in chaos. I just wanted to kind of publicly announce and actually force myself to do it. I am going to release all the HIVE files for free, Just give me some time so I can like actually clean all the necessary stuff from them. And I'm going to give them so you can just kind of dive in through my November setups and maybe learn something, hopefully, from them. So these are my like social handles. If you just follow me anywhere there, you probably know once I release them. Feel free to reach out if you want to chat about anything, especially if you want to chat about procedural art. And that's my talk for today. Thank you. With a little bit of wisdom at the end. That's how I like to educate my kids. Thank you. Do you have time for questions?
There we go.
Okay.
More volume, a little bit more volume. Any questions? Yes.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I'm wondering if you ever go to an hackerspace, because if not, I think you should.
Sorry, where?
An hackerspace.
Aquaspace.
Hackerspace.
Hyperspace.
Hackerspace. Hackerspace.
Aha, okay. I have no idea what it is, but I'm gonna Google it after this. Okay.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, okay.
Really, you should.
Okay. 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 No further questions. I need to go. I'm kidding. If anybody has any more questions, thank you. Thank you for your tip. I'll definitely check it out.
Hackerspace. Yeah.
Hackerspace is a place when you can build things from scratch, and you have everything you need to build things.
Oh, thank you very much for that explanation.
I don't know if it's a French thing or I was wondering, could you be this creative when you just drop off school? No, I don't mean drop off. I mean when you left school. I don't know if you did 3D school or anything like that, because I think it's wonderful to be this free, and it looks like you can have a hard time to be that free when you just leave school, and I was wondering how you managed to be like that.
Thank you. Great question. I haven't talked about that, but I was both lucky and unlucky in that way, in a sense that my first educational choice was not artistic. My first university that I enrolled was actually electrical engineering. So I studied software development for like a very long time. And I literally almost finished that university. I finished 3.5 out of 5 years. And what happened is that in the meantime, I started doing digital art as a hobby, and I completely steered away in that direction. And I was doing a lot of this even back then. There's a lot of personal projects, pushing them online. And what happened is that I met a guy who had like a music video production company back then, and he needed 3D help. And I was like, maybe I can help you. Let's try this. And I started doing 3D then professionally, actually earning money from it. What happened is that I haven't given like an exam on my electrical engineering university for like 5 years. So I dropped out of that. But since I was self-taught, I had a lot of these like gaps in my knowledge, which I think I only could have, I don't know, filled with actual proper like art university. So I enrolled into my second university a little bit later. So I studied like interactive media design, again, for 4 years and finished that. And two things, wonderful things happened there. One thing was that for all these kind of fundamental like curriculums, like history of art, like typography, I had really good teachers that really, I believe, filled the gaps that I needed to be filled. And also what happened is that I met so many other people who like share the same passion. And then what happened back to university is that even then we didn't want to stop at just doing what needs to be done for the sake of the assignments. We self-organized and we created like a small student union, and we started doing things that we wanted to do, not what was asked for us, but what we wanted to do on top of that. And that was kind of the beginning of that freedom which I still carry on even today. So back then we experimented, we did a lot of interactive art installation. This was like 10 years ago, we did like holograms, augmented reality. It was very lo-fi because we didn't know better, but we didn't care. Like it was so lo-fi that it was liberating because expectations were small, and we, like whatever we did, we were happy about it. So after finishing school, I really kind of tried to carry forward that freedom as well. I managed to a sense, I was lucky because I got hired very early on after school. So I had financial stability, and I could easily afford to do a lot of these things on the side without actually trying to find work to kind of live by. And I'm still like that. I have a very awesome job, which is very stable, but it also gives me an opportunity to have free time to experiment with a lot of things which interest me. And a lot of things interest me. I'm like a raven. I see a next shiny thing, I fly over there to see what's going on. But thank you for the question.
Thank you.
I think that just about does it for the time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.